The Women's Fund for Scotland is Scotland's only dedicated fund for women and girls. I'm Susan Morrison, and this is our podcast where we talk to inspiring women improving the lives of those women and girls today. This episode, we're speaking to Jan from Firsthand Lothian, and she's helping to make time for mum. Jan, hello, it's great to see you, great to meet you, and I love the title of your organisation. It's Firsthand Lothian.
Yes. Yeah.
It's something really welcoming. I can almost imagine a hand being reached out to me with a title like that. What exactly do they do there at Firsthand Lothian?
So we have various different things that we do. We support families where there's a disability. It's kind of not complex disability, but usually children are in mainstream schools, but they have some additional needs. So we do that, and that looks like sort of giving families a break over a period of 6 months. They have a worker or volunteer who takes children out for a wee while. So it's about the sort of positive impact on the child as well. So it's doing stuff in the local community and going with their interests and building their confidence and sort of setting goals for them as well as sort of giving the parents some time. And then I run sort of 2 or 3 projects really. I run Time for Mum, which we're going to talk about today, and health and wellbeing activities for female parent carers, and also like a parent carer group as well. So we've got lots of different things that we do. So sometimes like a parent will come in maybe looking for the health and wellbeing, but then they'll get some other support. You know, it's quite holistic.
The idea of providing help for families with children with disabilities, that's absolutely vital. People forget that you know, there's an awful lot of work, usually arguing with bureaucracy, to be fair, for folk. And just giving them a wee break is a great idea, absolutely brilliant. And I know, and you were talking about Time for Mum. Now, you got funding from the Women's Fund for Scotland, helping isolated mothers, which is great. How on earth do you reach out to them? How do you get them?
We get referrals through all sorts of organisations, other third sector, schools, GPs, additional support for learning. People can self-refer as well. Sometimes it's word of mouth. But yeah, it's about reaching those mums who don't have any other family maybe in Edinburgh. They maybe aren't from Edinburgh, they might be from another country, so they really find it hard to link into other support and other things for leisure as well, for enjoyment. So they have a volunteer who helps them reach a personal goal. And it can be as simple as a walk and a coffee. But for mums that don't have, and a chat, you know, adult chat, mums that are single parents that just don't have that adult conversation, it's really positive. But they can have a goal in mind. They might want to like join a community class or fitness class, but it's that thing about having someone to help you get through the door. I mean, it's hard even, I know myself, getting through a door to a fitness class without a friend, you know. It's giving you that motivation and encouragement as well to start something new.
Oh, I think that's really important. And as you said, if it's women who are, you know, don't have that informal support network around them, like other members of the family, friends, imagine that if you don't even speak the same language as people around you. I mean, you're going to get really cut off, aren't you?
Yeah. We'll work with mums who maybe want to improve their English or things like that. But even just finding out where to go to do that is really hard for people. And a lot of the time, these women do flourish once they're given the opportunity and the support to try whatever it is they want to do.
I think fitness classes are really important. I go to, this is me just humble bragging now, I go to body pump classes at the gym next to me in Leith. And a few weeks ago, a young woman turned up who clearly never been to one before. I don't know if you know body pump, you have to put weights on and stuff like that. And she didn't speak English. So this is the worst situation for someone to land in, really, is a group of about half a dozen overbearing Scottish women who are going to mime weightlifting at you and not explain anything. Somehow she made it through the class and she's come back. So, but we're always there. But it's just that all of a sudden we turned into a little community, and that's what you're helping women to get into. I also love the title Time for Mum, because people kind of forget just how much pressure these young women are under, don't they?
Yeah, I think being able to chat to someone. I remember like one of the first mums that I supported before we had volunteers delivering was Chinese, and her son was at school and she had no idea what Burns Day was. So I was meeting with her weekly, and it just came up in chat, like, what is this Burns Day? So she'd obviously had a letter from the school for him to wear tartan, and they were doing like, haggis and whatever. But she didn't have an understanding of it. And she was sort of saying to me, well, I need to go and buy you like cashmere tartan. And I said, your local charity shop is fine. Just a little bit of a tartan scarf is, and just explaining and having the conversation about what it meant and what it was, because it was just such an alien concept.
Jan, did you have to explain what a haggis was?
Yeah, and I think I did a wee bit of, whatever burns I learned at school. And we sort of had a little laugh about it, but it is just something as simple as that can be a bit overwhelming and frightening if you don't know what it is or what it means.
You see, you've hit a really important nail on the head there. That people think that to work in this with women who are isolated, you need to have qualifications, and they're going to be dealing with big stuff. But in fact, it's the everyday littleness that can sometimes overwhelm people, and that's where you can step in and help them.
Yeah. And a lot of the time it's about mums giving themselves permission to do something for their own enjoyment. And that is the hard bit, because there's so many other things that, especially like we work with a lot of single parents and parents that are carers with, caring responsibilities. And there's always something you could be doing at home, whether it's housework, whether it's dealing with schools or other like professionals. But actually, once they take that first step, they realise the benefit for their own well-being and their family as well. They can sort of cope better with all those stresses by making a wee window sort of once a week, meet the volunteer, do something that they enjoy. And it really, the knock-on effect of that is massive for everyone,
So let me just work out. So that is the kind of that's a process time for mum. Are you matched up with a volunteer or?
Yeah. So we try and match volunteers with similar interests as well. So it's beneficial for the volunteer. They're doing something that they enjoy or they want to try, And the feedback we get from volunteers is that, they get a lot out of it as well for their own well-being, just by feeling like you're helping someone and making a difference. We've had mums that are volunteers coming forward, so they're experienced as parents that are maybe, had one volunteer who was a mum who had been bringing up her family for 8 years, and it gave her a way of gradually stepping back into the workplace, because, she had realised she had these skills just with being a parent that aren't always recognised or kind of celebrated in any way. And that sort of helped her build her confidence and develop further herself.
So the volunteer meets with the mum,
Yeah.
and do they work out what they want to do, or?
Yeah, well, I usually get to know the mum a bit first, and then often we'll kind of have a goal in mind or we'll discuss it. Takes longer with some women because, like I said, they spend so much time looking after other people. They don't know what they want to do, but if they were given the time or the chance to do it. So sometimes it takes a bit longer with some mums.
Isn't it amazing how hard it is sometimes to say to women, yes, you are allowed to take a bit of time off?
Yeah, I think that's it. Everybody else is more important,
Yeah.
But once they take that first step, actually, it just makes such a huge difference. You see they're less stressed, or, they're maybe able to ask for help more, or other support, and they can access, other support from us as well. So like peer support from other parent carers and some of the health and wellbeing stuff that we do.
Oh, it's so valuable. And it was the Women's Fund for Scotland that actually funded this strand of your work, time for mum.
Yeah.
Was there something in particular that made you think that was needed?
We realised that there was a lot of mums that at the end of the family support, which is 6 to 9 months, at the end of that time where they had a break from the kids regularly, they were voicing to the worker or the volunteer, the family support worker or volunteer, oh, I'd really like to go to the gym, or I'd really like to do this art class. But they needed that support with getting started. So they had something in mind, but they couldn't just walk out the door and do it on their own. They didn't have the confidence. So we realised there was a need initially. And for a year, I delivered it. So I did the Time for Mum bit. I met with mums and sort of we did a pilot project that way. And then we've developed it so there are volunteers supporting mums now.
And that's what you carried it forward with. And I'm also struck by the fact that you've used the funding not just for the mums, which is valuable, but also the volunteers are getting something out of it as well. So it's very cyclical.
It is. And I think and with the wellbeing stuff, it's another way in because people know me already and then they know their volunteer. So sometimes they can come along to the wellbeing stuff with their volunteer. And that's usually focused around relaxation. In the sort of spring, summertime, we do outdoor, it's like forest schools for adults. So it's fire building, arts and crafts stuff outside. It's very varied. And then sort of at the moment, we've been doing things like aromatherapy, art for wellbeing. It's guided by what they want to do.
Mm.
If you've got a volunteer that you've already built that relationship with, you can access a group more easily, than just walking through the door to a group of strangers.
Yeah. Which, even for people who are really confident is something that you really need to build yourself up to sometimes. It's just walking in. And basically what you're asking, or no, what you're giving women the chance to do, both volunteers and your mums, is start a little bit of a new life, isn't it?
Yeah, and just take some time to meet with other parent carers. So you've got the sort of social aspect.
Mm.
And, it sounds so simple, but have a laugh with other people and just, I think if people are on their own a lot, there's that overthinking jumps in and a lot of maybe negative stuff, especially if there's a lot of stressful situations at home, to have that break away from it and just a bit of downtime, a bit of something
that's you. It's for you. You must see mums change. I mean, that must be quite hard to quantify. I mean, but do you see them growing in confidence or less anxious?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things in the last couple of years is just the peer support that's grown out of the group stuff. I think since COVID, obviously, all the difficulties that people had before COVID's just been sort of amplified.
Yeah.
With mental health and the lack of support that people had and the knock-on effect and things like that. And for the group that we support, which is mainly female parent carers, for them to support each other. Once we've initially had the input with Time for Mum and the group stuff, the health and wellbeing stuff, they've got their own WhatsApp group that they can support each other. And, they meet up during the holidays with their kids. And that's what you want. It's that sustainability that actually, when we're not there anymore, how do you get that support?
That's actually quite a hard thing to quantify, though, isn't it? I mean, how do you, it's very difficult for you to turn around to funders and say, this is how these women's lives have improved. That must be a challenge for you.
We do a sort of assessment at the start and the end. So we get feedback, sort of written feedback, and we do get audio and we get video from women that are willing to do that as well, to say about the difference that it's made.
I think that's a great way to get feedback, by the way, like audio or visual of actually women telling you how things have changed. It must sound great.
Yeah, and that's what makes it all worthwhile. That's why I do my job. That's why the volunteers enjoy it and love what they do, because you see the difference. And it's so simple, really. Meeting someone once a week to have a chat and a coffee or a walk. But for women where there's a lot going on, there's often been like domestic abuse situations maybe in the past. So there's been big knocks to confidence along the way. But actually coming out the other end of that just with that wee bit of support. And I think because it's volunteers and it's a lot of the time volunteers that are mums themselves, it doesn't feel like that sort of hierarchy of support where it's relatable.
Yes, that's the lovely bit about it. It's not someone coming in and wagging their finger at you and saying, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that, which I think is what we were doing in the gym that day. Without having that hierarchy, it means that women feel that they're amongst friends and not amongst someone who's judging them.
That's it. And I think, like, in terms of, I know the challenges, one of the massive challenges that women are facing just now that I'm dealing with is the lack of support, children with disabilities and children with additional support needs is like an ongoing theme that is huge for our mums. It's really stressful for them daily because their children aren't getting the right support. And for them to be able to support each other and just say, look, this is hard, I know what it's like, that's massive. But also for me to be able to sort of signpost advocacy and educational rights organisations to people, that's quite important as well.
That's really tragic. That's really sad to hear, because I thought we were getting better at looking after children with additional needs in schools, but we're not.
No, I mean, it's conversations that I'm having with people daily that it's a battle, it's a fight. It's budgets, it's money, but it has a huge impact on the mental health of these parents who want the best for their children, and
yeah,
it's really hard for people.
It must be dispiriting to hear these conversations, because they seem to, you think we've solved a problem and then it comes back again. It's like the villain at the end of a horror film that's never quite dead, that jumps out of the wardrobe at you. Have you seen things improve in any way for young mums out there?
Maybe more recently, I would say the last 3 to 6 months, there's been a little bit more joined up thinking with mental health resources, I think, in Edinburgh. It's still a bit messy, but there seems to be a little bit more joined up thinking that when people go to their GP, there can be quite a quicker process of people getting support for counselling and things like that. I don't know that that's across the board yet, but I have heard back from a few mums recently that seems to be working a little bit better than it was. But a lot of my job as well is like, if people are maybe they're doing time for mum, but there's still a lot of other stuff going on, it's maybe signposting other organisations and like referrals for counselling and things like that as well. So, and it's maybe easier to ask me than your GP anyway.
That's what I was thinking there, Dan, because you're not that finger waggy, you're not that figure of authority, although you do strike me as a very authoritative woman, so I should put that straight away. But you're not one of those people that's going to come in and tell people what to do and, just be overbearing. So I was thinking that perhaps now there are organisations like yours and like Time for Mum, which are making a bit of a difference in mums' lives, big difference by the sounds of things. And do you see these women develop and grow?
Yeah, I mean, there was one mum that she sort of came to the end of Time for Mum recently, and it was one where she asked for support with accessing counselling, and she was doing Time for Mum, and for her, she met the volunteer, they weekly went for a walk, and she was saying it really reignited her love of nature, just going for a walk with a volunteer. She'd forgotten how much she enjoyed that, and again, something really simple. It wasn't anything that cost very much, it was just getting outside, going for a walk. But also I could put the referral in for counselling. I could sort of chase it for her when she had a lot going on. And then when we knew it was coming to an end, right, let's get some other counselling in place from another place, because, sometimes it's like 12 weeks and that's it. And people need longer. So yeah, being able to just advocate for people a wee bit.
I mean, I do like the cyclical nature of everything you're talking about. The fact the volunteers are getting something out of it, the mums are getting something out of it, the families will be getting something out of it as a result. And the fact that the funding for this came from the Women's Fund for Scotland, which is women raising money for other women in Scotland. It's a lovely big coven, isn't it? Now, if only we could have you in charge of absolutely everything, that would probably be... I mean, I know you're running Time for Mum, but do you think you could make time to run Scotland? It's not, I mean...
A magic wand.
Women know that a magic wand, there isn't one. You just have to keep putting the work in, which is what you're doing. There must be a favourite bit of your job, though.
It's joining in with the wellbeing stuff. I love it. It's my favourite part of the week, because we do, at the moment, we're running, we've had a block, so it's been like aromatherapy, there's art wellbeing sessions. So it's on a Monday, which is the best start to the week for me. I get to join in. Got all the organising, and that's a wee stressful bit, getting everyone there and stuff. But when you're there and you get in the zone as well. So for me, it's the best part of my week, is joining in with the wellbeing stuff.
That's making me quite jealous, actually. I mean, I don't mind the walks outside, but only if the weather's nice. So you'd have to persuade me that we're going somewhere nice and a nice coffee shop at the end of it.
There's always a lunch, and that's another bonus, isn't that? So.
That is phenomenal. And also you must see I don't to say the relationship with the children, but you must see their children appreciating mum being a little bit more relaxed as well.
With Time for Mum, I don't often get to meet the kids. there have been mums where they've maybe been referred for Time for Mum, but actually there's more going on. And there was a mum a few years ago where she came in under Time for Mum, but actually she needed more family support. So it is about kind of seeing, actually, maybe you could have support from us in a different way.
Ah,
If that's what's needed at the time.
that is very good. It's a great title as well, Time for Mum. Did you come up with that?
No, I think it's my boss.
What, you claim it? It's fine. But that is the very thing that women who've become mums don't do, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you give them permission to have time. In fact, because it's a program, it's a thing.
Mhm.
That is the wonderful thing about it. Is that you have. I'm doing this thing. It's a program. I've got to do it. It's going to be good for me.
I think that's what appeals when people maybe see the flyer or find out about it. For volunteers as well, it's in a nutshell what it's about, and I think that's what appeals to people.
Yeah, things have never been tougher for mums out there because quite a lot of women who become mums at a certain stage, then they also become carers.
Yeah.
The sandwich generation, they're caught in between the two. So you are stepping in, they're going, no, you need to take time, you need to take a break. And women are terrible at doing that. I've reached the point where I think ironing is relaxing.
But I think as well, we find because we get a lot of mums who are carers for their children, sometimes it's even identifying that they're a carer, that they do more than what whatever an ordinary parent is. But, if they've got children with additional needs, they maybe don't identify as being a carer. So that's a kind of process in itself, and helping them recognise you're doing much more than most parents, and you can get support benefits and all that practical stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because parents just think that, this is what's expected, this is what I have to do, and get on with it,
Yeah, I'm a parent. This is what I signed up for. This is what I've got to do. But if you've got different situations, for example, as you said, perhaps a child with additional needs, or you don't speak the language, that's another issue that you need to fight with, or you're on your own. All of these things contribute to making the job of being a parent even tougher, as if it couldn't even get any tougher. And that's where you step in with this fantastically titled Time for Mum, which is I just can't get over what a great title that is. And the thing is that when you're reaching out to isolated mums, and you did mention where you see the flyer, so you did say a few women, some self-refer. So I'm kind of wondering where they can find the information out. Is it in GP surgeries or something? Or
well, obviously our website and Facebook and things like that. There's flyers. Yeah, it's GPs, it's word of mouth, other sort of, like EVOC, which is a voluntary sector organisation in Edinburgh. We're on Thrive, which is another sort of mental health forum. And then there's sort of bits of community. I've done work over the years. I've done quite a lot of partnership working with the school in Craigmillar. So we work with volunteers in the school, and we kind of recruit in the school for volunteers as well.
Do you get mums who've worked with you who required support then going on to becoming volunteers? Oh, lovely.
Well, I've had a mum that became a volunteer, and a volunteer who is now getting paid work with us as well.
So you have a benefit. You have a benefit to the community all round, Jan. I mean, I'm struggling to see the downside of any of this. Although, I mean, I do love the idea of the walks in the countryside and getting women outside. I think exercise is so vital for people who are isolated, particularly because they just sit behind those doors, and that's just the worst thing that you can do, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Just if they can get over the door to do something out of the actual home environment where all the, you could forever be doing housework. There's no end to it.
No.
But actually do something for your own benefit,
No, when it comes to housework, I've got very strict limits. But I remember being a young mum, and I remember we were 3 floors up in a tenement in Leith, and I remember, because of course I'd been at work before that, and I'll never forget the feelings of isolation. Suddenly there was nothing, and to get out of a 3rd floor flat was just so much work. And there was a point where I realised at one point I hadn't actually been outside for 2 days. But the horrible thing was I was starting to like it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of an organisation like yours where I could go, where I could access, where would have to come out to meet a volunteer. I think that's a wonderful idea. It's absolutely brilliant.
And it is about meeting women where they are. So there's various levels of support. Sometimes it might take a bit longer, me building up that trust relationship with them, you know, on the phone or face to face before they're ready to engage with the volunteer. And we found that, especially since COVID, it's maybe not been right straight to match with your volunteer, or, you know, where there is like anxiety and depression. It's the conversations and the chat about how can we support you with this? You know, what is going to work for you? I remember one of the first mums that I supported, it was swimming. She really wanted to go swimming. She had it in mind. She loved swimming sort of before she had her kids, and she hadn't really done it much since she had her kids. And she had a lot of social anxiety. She was agoraphobic. She could go out and do things outside the home with her kids, but nothing for herself.
Wow.
So she could take her kids to school and she could go to clubs with them, but she couldn't like get on a bus on her own and do something. So we kind of worked through it and just said, right, what's going to help you? I'll come, you know, we'll get the bus together. Doesn't even matter if we get through the door the first time, we'll just stand outside and look at the building. You know, we'll go and have a coffee, we'll watch other people swim.
Mm-hmm.
Just take it step by step. And so that's what we did. We got the bus, we had a coffee in the building, she met the people, you know, just getting over the door. How much does it cost? Where's the changing room, you know? And then we sort of made a plan about the next week. And she spoke about, oh, you know, panic attacks. And we just made a plan together. And we got in the pool together. It was that initial, like, oh, sort of social anxiety about her body and everything. And got in the pool together. And that was it. Once she got in the pool, she remembered how much she enjoyed it. And it was just taking it at people's pace.
Oh, that must have been a great moment.
I mean, it was brilliant. And it's also in terms of like, it might have taken longer and that's okay. But the next week, she was in the pool before me, before I got there. So it is, how do you help people to get there? You give them the support that's right for them.
Yeah. But also the fact that you were right there beside her.
Yeah. And saying to people, what do you need? How can I help? So it's sort of the ball's in their court, really.
But also, the ball might be in their court, Jan, but don't listen. But what Time for Mum does is it picks that ball up and it runs with it. And it takes those women with them. That's a fabulous initiative. That was great. Thank you. It was lovely.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us and listening to this story. I hope you've been inspired. And if you would like to support the Women's Fund for Scotland, search for us online and listen out for our other podcast episodes.